welcome back to my channel and to another meal prep. Simply Feeling meal prep. If you're wondering where's Flair, why her lights aren't on, she's still on the back of my chair. She slept back there last night and I'm just letting her sleep in a little bit while I finish up in here, which, trust me, she does not mind. I cover her and she has her own little blankie, and I raise it up and I peek under there, and if her eyes are still shut, I put it back down because I don't want to bother her. I just let her sleep until she's through. Anyway, what we're making this week for breakfast are sausage gravy breakfast bowls. I like them with my niece's sausage, but I'm not wanting to pay the points for it. Not the way I get my points now. If I had daily points to pay, I'd do it because I would have more to work with. I would have daily and weekly. But I know I sound like a broken record. I get 49 weekly points. And this week, at least, I don't feel like spending my points on sausage. Like I said in my meal planning video, there might come a week when I do want to spend my points on sausage. But for today, I'm good with Jones Point and Plate turkey sausage. The points for these things, I will discuss at the end of the video. They're going to be different for the different plans. I'll tell you what they are for me. And at least blue and purple green. I never know what yours is since you have to count everything practically. I don't know how to count yours. Then for lunch, this was a recipe sent to me by Cheryl Land. She does core Simply Feeling. Core turned into Simply Feeling. And it's a cheeseburger in paradise skinny soup, which is a skinny taste recipe. And as I told you on my meal planning video, it's not on her website anymore. So it's just one of those things. I guess she revamped it and changed it, and she has a cheeseburger soup, which is completely different from this one. This one's made different from any other cheeseburger soups that I have made. But the recipe made, I'll spit it out here in a minute. 6 servings, 2 of them I'm going to pop in the freezer. I just have 4 for my prep. And then snack also came from Cheryl. It's pumpkin fluff. It is, I'm going to tell you right now, it's made with sugar-free pudding mix. And if you don't like sugar-free pudding, you're not going to like this pumpkin fluff. But if you don't have a problem with sugar-free pudding, it's good. I don't have a problem with it at all. So it does not bother me. If you wanted to make it, you could make it with regular vanilla and butterscotch pudding. You could do that. Just take your points for it. I don't know how much it would be because I don't know how high in points those puddings are since I don't use them anymore. But it makes a big bowl, like 8 servings for a half a cup of pudding. That's a lot of pudding. I think that's a good serving. For me, it's 0 points. You can't beat that with a stick. So that is what I'm having this week. And let's just turn around and get started cooking. To start our breakfast bowl, we want to add a little bit of oil to the pan where we're going to fry our hash browns. Now, if you have to count your potatoes, then you be sure and weigh and measure yours. I'm just going to divide these by 4. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just dividing them as evenly as I can between all 4 of my containers. The next thing we're going to cook is our turkey sausage. There again, we're going to add a little bit of oil to the pan. And this is 99% fat-free turkey. Like I told y'all, this is the one way that I will eat turkey because once you season it, it tastes like a lean sausage. So go ahead and chop that up. I ended up getting out my little meat chopper because I wanted it fine. I didn't want big chunks. Now, Joan mixes her spices in before she fries it, but y'all know I don't touch raw meat, ground meat especially. So I just add mine after it has cooked. That was like a half a teaspoon of salt, I think, some pepper to taste, and a teaspoon and a half of poultry seasoning. And I'm just going to mix it around until it is completely combined. Now I tried to divide the meat in half because half is going to go in the freezer and half for now because a pound of meat is too much for 4 servings. So I'm just going to layer that on top of the hash browns. The next thing is our eggs. I just keep using the same pan because why not? This is 8 eggs that I beat with a little bit of milk, and we're just going to cook them until they're soft set because they'll cook as we reheat it. So just hit it with a little salt and pepper, and then you guessed it, we're going to go over here and divide it as evenly as possible between our containers. Then the final step is the gravy, and this is the Pioneer Country Gravy Mix. You start with your part of your water that you boil, and then the rest you mix with the gravy mix, and all you have to do is add it to the boiling water and whisk it until it thickens, and it takes no time, just a couple minutes. Then a serving is a half a cup. I'm just eyeballing it. Now we're going to start on our soup. I want to start with 1 stalk of celery, and I just want to dice it kind of small. I started with 2 carrots, but you'll see that 1 carrot was enough, so that one just went back in the refrigerator. And then we want to dice up 1 kind of small to medium onion. Now I preheated my cast iron Dutch oven, hit it with a little oil. I'm going to add my pound of, I'm using 93, and it looks gross because I thawed it in the microwave. It was in the freezer and I forgot to bring it out. And then all of our vegetables. The recipe says do them separately, but I'm just doing them all together. About a tablespoon of garlic, minced garlic, and then some pepper to taste, and about 1.5 teaspoons of dried basil. And we're going to cook this until the meat is done and the veggies are tender. They'll continue cooking later, but you do want to get them somewhat tender in this process. Now, while that's finishing cooking, we're going to dice our potatoes. I just kind of cube them. You'll see here in a few minutes what size. The recipe calls for 2 cups. If you don't have to count them, use how much ever you want. So this step right here, I'm leaving out of the recipe because it served enough. It did not thicken the soup up 1 iota. So the part you're seeing here is not in the recipe, so just ignore it. Now we're going to add 4 cups of chicken broth, and you want to put that in first because you want to scrape up any brown bits that have stuck to the bottom. After that, we're going to add in 1 can of, I'm using the petite diced tomatoes. I happen to like those better than the bigger ones. So don't drain the can. And then 1 cup of skim milk. And our potatoes, I think, is what's next. And there you can see I just cut them bite size. Now we're going to bring this up to the boil and cover it, simmer it at least 30 minutes. Mine probably took 45 minutes before my potatoes got done. So just keep a check on it. And then once the potatoes are done, I thickened it with the cornstarch and water, but I forgot to turn the camera on. So this is after I had put it in and started cooking it to thicken it up a little bit. You see how loose it was before I added that? And then these little containers are 2-cup containers. And what I put in there is roughly 1.5 cups. That's the perfect way to measure it instead of having to pour it into another bowl. So I got 6 of these 1.5 cup servings. The final thing, this is the part that's not like regular cheeseburger soup. The cheese goes on top. So I'm just using 1 point's worth of the Velveeta shreds, and that happens to be 2 tablespoons. So whatever kind of cheese you use, you just point it, measure it, weigh it, how many ever points you want to spend. Now for the pumpkin fluff, we're going to start with 3 cups of skim milk,
add a sugar-free box of butterscotch pudding, and then a sugar-free box of vanilla pudding. And we just want to whisk that around until it's completely dissolved and it just soft sets. To that, we're going to add 1 can of pumpkin, the whole can, and we want to whisk it until it's completely combined. No like little pockets of pudding or anything. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon and a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I started with a half, tasted it, and then it did need the whole teaspoon. So then whisk it up until it's completely blended, and that's all there is to it. Now, the recipe said it was a 1 cup serving, which I thought sounded kind of big, but it didn't say how many servings, so I wanted to put it in my big measuring cup here to see, and it worked out to be 4 cups, so that is 8 1/2 cup servings. I think that's a good size serving for a little dessert.
Okay, so let's see what we got. We got our sausage gravy breakfast bowls. For me, it is 1 point, and that is for the gravy on top. Purple, you would also be 1 point because you don't have to count your hash browns. Blue, just weigh and measure your hash browns and add that to your 1 point's worth of gravy. The cheeseburger in paradise skinny soup, for me, it is 1 point, and that is for the cheese on top. Purple, I think you would also be 1 point. I don't think there's enough. I didn't switch it to see quite yet. If it's different, I'll pop it on the screen. But I think yours will also be 1 point because you don't have to count your potatoes either. Blue, you just have to weigh and measure how much potatoes you put in it. And if you do 2 cups, I do remember building the recipe with 2 cups, and it come out to 4 points, and I think that is with the cheese. But as always, put it in your recipe builder. This is just a cup of chopped dill pickles to go on top when I serve it. The recipe suggests some dill pickles, little squeeze of mustard, and a little squeeze of ketchup. And so I'll try that at least 1 time. And then the pumpkin fluff, which is really good, but I'm going to tell you, is 0 for me, but everybody else is 2, and that's for a 1/2 cup. I don't think that's too bad for a 1/2 cup of pumpkin pudding is really what it is. So that is it for me for this week. This is what I'm hoping to keep me successful and on plan. I hope if you have prepped something, it's something you like, something tasty, something that you will enjoy eating the rest of the week, and have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you on my next video.